Let us build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live. A place where saints and children tell how hearts learn to forgive. Built of hopes and dreams and visions, rock of faith and vault of grace. Here the love of Christ shall end divisions. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place.
Hi everybody, what's up? It is great to have you with us in this inclement weather. I hope you are warm, that you had a good day and a pleasant weekend so far. We are celebrating communion today, exploring it specifically as a meal of hospitality. Regardless of whether you feel excluded by friends or family or society or circumstances at work, you are safe and welcomed in this space. Grace and peace to you all. I'm always stunned when I read the Bible at the scenes of extraordinary hospitality. Abraham and Sarah set the tone in Genesis 18 verses 1 to 8. Listen. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them, and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly 3 measures of choice flour, knead it and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. Here ends our scripture reading. A white policeman with his knee on the neck of a black man. The black man is pleading, "I cannot breathe." Unexpectedly, this image became central to the time of COVID-19 all over the world. In the massive and spontaneous protests still taking place, people are latching on to it, reading into it their own feelings of alienation and despair. When I saw it, the words of A.E. Housman, that loner and brilliant English classicist, sprang up in my thoughts. In a poem of protest, he vented his frustration of not feeling at home in church and society. With his immortal words, "I, a stranger and afraid in a world I never made." Again and again I realized that still we have not been able to build a city where all are welcome, where all feel safe and accepted, where new ideas can flourish. In the midst of these musings and explosive events, the story of Abraham, Sarah, and 3 strangers pops up. They lead a nomadic life and settle down in the desert at Mamre, perhaps for a few weeks before moving on again. Then 3 strangers arrive. When Abraham sees them, he offers them hospitality according to the law of the desert. If a stranger appears at your tent, you are to welcome them, give them water and food as well as shelter. In the sweltering heat of the desert, the law of hospitality was a matter of human survival. Accordingly, many myths were told about a god in disguise requiring hospitality. If accepted, their hosts were rewarded. This is a beautiful story. Abraham offers them the minimum required by custom: water to drink and to wash their feet, shelter in the shade of Mamre's famous oak tree, and some bread. The men gratefully accept. Do as you have said. Just look at what Abraham does next. He asks Sarah to take choice flour and bake fresh bread. He has a servant slaughter one of his best calves, has curd and milk prepared, and set it all before them. He turned the letter of the law into a feast of grace. As legends go, the strangers turned out to be angels. Abraham and Sarah were rewarded with the birth of a son in their old age. From that point onwards, the theme of hospitality becomes one of the grand themes in the Bible. When the refugees from Egypt finally settle in their promised land, hospitality is written into their holy law. Love the alien, says the book of Leviticus, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. In Matthew, Jesus develops the idea of the God in disguise. He says, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Every person in need is God in disguise, according to Jesus. And so the early Christians took over an ancient pagan practice. They would deck an extra place at the table just in case a stranger would knock on the door. So, to extend hospitality is fundamental to the Christian way of life. In this time of the corona pandemic, it may again be a matter of human survival. So, what is hospitality exactly? It means first and foremost that we overcome our natural response of hostility towards the stranger. The word comes from the Latin hospes, which means guest. Hostility comes from hostis, enemy. Hospitality is to turn an enemy, a hostis, into a hospes, a guest, a friend. Hospitality has no hidden agenda. When I was studying theology, one of my professors said, when an elder or deacon takes flour or cooking oil to a family in need, they have to do one thing first: read from the Bible and pray. Then they hand over the food parcel. For him, hospitality is conditional to make converts. I disagree. Hospitality is not to bring men and women over to our side. It is to create a space where strangers can enter and become friends who respect each other's ideas and philosophies. The destruction of statues and the wildfire protests all over the world made me realize that we have failed miserably in this task. All over the world, people still feel marginalized in our cities and our societies. Most recently, a gay couple requested membership of a local congregation. They were refused. There are churches even today, through their liturgy and attitude of being the frozen chosen, who make people feel unwelcome. For Christians, I think, hospitality has to do with feeding programs, assisting people to reskill themselves, and to create warm and welcoming atmospheres at our places of worship. We need to remove all our hidden agendas. And this is why many progressive faith communities have an open communion table. Everybody is welcome, even those not sharing the same beliefs. I like it and support it and practice it. This is at least one of the ways to address the feelings of alienation, of not feeling at home in our societies and our cities, to really open up. Unfortunately, we tend to write off people with our one-dimensional concepts like, oh, he's an alcoholic, or nah, she's a divorcee, or he's an atheist, or you see another female driver, or don't take him seriously, he's not a real Christian. Whites look at people of color and think they are lazy, promiscuous, violent, corrupt, or criminal. Blacks look at whites and think they got their lifestyle through power and privilege and by keeping capital within the laws of whiteness. I have learned to always suspend judgment, to keep talking, to keep trying to understand, to keep listening. Hospitality means to create a space where strangers can enter into and become friends. Hospitality is a mindset where we give every other human being every single right we claim for ourselves. It is to get rid of our mentality that, yes, we are a little bit different from, maybe a little superior to, maybe a little bit better than the others. You know, the poor, the disadvantaged, the free thinkers, the LGBTQs, the jobless. But hospitality is much more. It is also creating a mindset which is hospitable to new ideas and to change. And this is also a matter of survival. There is a Zen story about this. Nan In, a Japanese Zen master, once hosted a researcher who wanted to study Zen Buddhism. The recent doctorate talked incessantly, offering his own theories and its functions and how it should be approached and what sort of information he would like. Nan In welcomed the postdoc graciously and began to serve tea. He poured the visitor's cup full, and then he kept pouring. The postdoc watched with dismay, but said nothing. After a while, he could no longer restrain himself. "But it is over full," he exclaimed. "No more will go in." Nan In responded, "Like this cup, you are also full. You are full of your own opinions and speculations and preconceived ideas and what you want. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Charles Darwin developed his theory of evolution already in the late 1830s. It was not until 1859 that he published On the Origin of Species. The mysterious 20-year interval, known as Darwin's delay, is ascribed to his fear for religious reaction. In fact, Darwin turned his back on the church in his later years, a stranger and afraid in a world he never made. However, his insights would forever change the way we view ourselves, the world, and even religion. Hospitality is to be open to listen to and to debate new ideas. That the earth is round and orbits around the sun, and even its circumference were discovered around the 4th century before our common era by the Greeks. Unfortunately, during the Dark Ages caused by Christianity's literal interpretation of the Bible and an attitude of anti-intellectualism, these ideas were suppressed well into the 17th century. Hospitality means to have open minds. One of the Bible's greatest stories of hospitality is told in Luke. 2 people, not part of Jesus' disciples, from an imaginary town called Emmaus, meet with a stranger. They talk about the horrors of their time and their frustrated hope that a Messiah would change things. A man with the knee of societal prejudice and political oppression on his throat was killed on a cross. Inviting the stranger into their home, they sit down for dinner. In the act of breaking bread with him and giving thanks for it, they recognize Jesus. They also recognize that they themselves could be messiahs to others by being hospitable. And with this, I invite you to share this cup and this bread with me and with each other. It reminds us of His openness to others, His new ideas, insights and wisdom, and that it came through His brokenness. So may these symbols of bread and wine open us to others, to our world, to change, to new ways of living, to new insights, to new cities, to new societies, and to new futures. Thank you for being with us. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the sun of peace to you. Amen. We listen to Dan Schutte's hymn, Let Us Build the City of God, a city of hospitality.
Awake from your slumber, arise from your sleep. A new day is dawning for all those who weep. The people in darkness have seen a great light. The Lord of our longing has conquered the night. Let us build the city of God. May our tears be turned into dancing. For the Lord
We are sons of the morning, we are daughters of day. The one who has loved us has brightened our way.
Let us build the city of God. May our tears are turned into dancing. For the Lord, our light and our love, has turned the night into day. God is light. In Him there is no darkness. Let us walk in His light, His children one and all.
Oh, comfort my people, make gentle your words, proclaim to my city the day of her birth.